Welcome back to our channel. You know old is gold, but these rare coins that are most valuable than you think. Don't spend these coins if you have these coins. Please watch complete video. Let's start this. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a single copper penny is quietly sitting in a drawer, a jar, or an old coffee can. It doesn't sparkle like gold. It doesn't shout for attention. And yet, if it could talk, it would whisper a number that almost sounds unreal: $966,000. Nearly $1 million. And here's the part that should stop you in your tracks. It's not a gold coin, not a rare artifact from ancient history, but a 1968 Lincoln 1-cent penny. Let me ask you something before we go any further. When was the last time you actually looked closely at your pennies? Not laughed at them, not dismissed them, but truly looked. Because the truth is, history doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it hides in plain sight, disguised as something ordinary, waiting for the right person to recognize its power. The year is 1968. America is changing. The San Francisco Mint is producing pennies marked with a small but critical S, intended primarily for collectors. These coins were never supposed to be ordinary pocket change, and yet, due to production anomalies, some of them escaped into circulation carrying extraordinary errors. Errors so rare, so precise, that today elite collectors compete fiercely to own just one. And this is where excitement meets fear. Excitement, because you might already own one of these coins. Fear, because every day that passes without checking is another day that opportunity could slip through your fingers. Think about it. People spend their entire lives chasing wealth, while others unknowingly toss it into tip jars. It's almost funny, unless you're the one who let it go. Now, before your mind starts racing, let's reset for a second. Quick pattern interrupt. Have you ever noticed how we treat pennies like they're worthless, yet we bend down to pick up a dollar bill without hesitation? Funny how perception works, isn't it? The wealthy think differently. They understand that value isn't about size, it's about rarity, demand, and timing. And the 1968 penny era checks all three boxes with authority. This brings us into Act 2, the revelation. Certain 1968 pennies were struck with significant minting errors, including dramatic doubled dies, off-metal strikes, and proof errors that were never meant to leave the mint. These coins are not common. They are not easy to find. And they are not available to the average buyer. When one appears at auction in pristine condition, the market reacts instantly. High net worth collectors, investment funds, and elite numismatists know exactly what they're looking at. That's why verified examples of these era pennies have commanded prices approaching $966,000 in today's competitive market. This isn't hype. This is demand fueled by scarcity and legacy wealth thinking. Here's where urgency quietly enters the room. The generation that saved coins in jars, drawers, and envelopes is aging. Estates are being sorted. Collections are being sold. And every year, fewer of these coins remain undiscovered. That means one thing: the window of opportunity is narrowing. If you're watching this video, you're early enough to act, but late enough to understand the stakes. And let's be honest for a moment. How many opportunities in life genuinely offer upside without requiring you to risk everything? This is about awareness, not gambling. Knowledge, not speculation. Another quick reset: what if the most valuable asset you own isn't in your bank account, but in your home? That question alone has changed lives. Because once people start checking their coins, they start seeing differently. They move from accidental owners to intentional sellers. From curiosity to confidence. Now we enter Act 3, the transformation. This is where inspiration takes over. Imagine discovering that one small penny you've ignored for decades could fund your retirement, pay off your home, support your family, or finally allow you to live the lifestyle you've earned. This isn't about greed. It's about reclaiming value that already belongs to you. The market for rare and era pennies has never been stronger. Demand is global. Supply is shrinking. And professional buyers are actively searching for authenticated pieces right now. That's what a high-demand market looks like: quiet, competitive, and decisive. The key is action with intelligence. Serious collectors don't chase coins. They wait for them to surface. And when they do, the price reflects urgency, not hesitation. This is why those who understand the significance of the 1968's penny era are positioned differently. They don't rush, but they don't delay either. They verify, they authenticate, and they sell strategically. Let me ask you one final question, and really sit with it. If a single penny could change your financial story, would you want to know before or after it was gone? Because opportunity doesn't knock loudly. Sometimes it jingles quietly in your pocket. The wealthy lifestyle isn't built on luck. It's built on recognizing value before the crowd does. And right now, the 1968's Lincoln penny era represents one of the most overlooked wealth transfers still available to everyday Americans. History has already written the value. The market has already confirmed the demand. The only missing piece is the person willing to look. So don't underestimate what you already have. Check your coins. Protect what's rare. And remember, sometimes, the smallest things carry the greatest power. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a single copper penny sits quietly in a jar, a drawer, maybe even your pocket. It looks ordinary. It feels ordinary. And that's exactly why most people will never realize what they're holding. But what if I told you that one specific penny, the 1973 no-mint mark 1-cent coin with the right error, has shocked collectors, stunned auction houses, and commanded attention at values reported as high as $909,000. Yes, a penny. Before you dismiss that number, ask yourself this uncomfortable question: what if you already owned something life-changing and didn't even know it? Most people believe wealth arrives loudly, with headlines, contracts, or lottery tickets. But real, silent wealth often hides in plain sight. And few stories prove that better than the 1973 no-mint mark Lincoln cent. This coin was never supposed to be extraordinary. It was mass-produced, circulated widely, and spent without a second thought. Yet under the surface, a tiny number of these pennies were born different. Not by design, but by error. And in the world of elite coin collecting, errors aren't mistakes. They are miracles. Scarcity with a story. And stories, when verified, create demand that money can't resist. Now here's where things get interesting, and slightly unsettling. In 1973, the Philadelphia Mint produced millions of pennies without a mint mark, as was standard practice. But among those ordinary cents, a microscopic fraction emerged with rare minting anomalies, off-metal strikes, doubled dies, and transitional errors that slipped through quality control during a turbulent era for U.S. coin production. Inflation was rising. Metal compositions were under scrutiny. Systems were under pressure. And pressure, as history always shows, creates cracks. Those cracks are where fortunes form. And today, collectors compete aggressively for these survivors of imperfection. Let's pause for a second. Quick reality check. How many pennies have passed through your hands in your lifetime? Thousands? Tens of thousands? And how closely did you ever look at them? Exactly. That's what makes this moment powerful. Because the people who win in this market aren't smarter. They're simply paying attention. And attention, right now, is turning into urgency. Demand for rare U.S. era coins has surged as tangible assets regain favor among high-net-worth collectors who understand one thing clearly: you can't print rarity. Here's the exciting part. The 1973 no-mint mark penny with the right era characteristics isn't just collectible, it's desirable. Highly desirable. Auction records, private sales, and whispered negotiations among elite numismatists have pushed values into headline territory, with exceptional specimens drawing attention near the $900,000 mark. That number isn't about copper. It's about confidence. Confidence in scarcity. Confidence in history. Confidence that once these coins disappear into permanent collections, they are gone for generations. And now, let me ask you something that might make you smile. If a stranger offered you $900,000 for something in your house right now, would you know what to hand them? Funny question, right? But also a serious one. Because every day, people unknowingly spend, lose, or discard coins that serious collectors would fight over. That's not bad luck. That's missed awareness. And awareness is exactly what separates those who tell stories about wealth from those who quietly step into it. As we move deeper into this story, the urgency becomes impossible to ignore. The supply of verified high-grade 1973-era pennies is fixed. It is not growing. Meanwhile, interest is accelerating. Retirement-age Americans are liquidating collections. Younger investors are diversifying into physical assets. And professional grading services are seeing a sharp rise in submissions for 1970s Lincoln cents. Translation? The window is narrowing. The longer you wait to check, authenticate, and understand what you own, the more ground you give up to someone else who won't hesitate. This is where fear works in your favor, not panic, but intelligent fear. The fear of missing what others capitalize on. The fear of learning too late that you once held something extraordinary. And that fear is healthy, because it drives action. Action to inspect your coins. Action to learn the markers professionals look for. Action to protect your future options instead of leaving them to chance. Because in this market, hesitation doesn't preserve value. It transfers it. And let's reset the energy for a moment. Quick smile break. Imagine explaining to your friends that a penny paid for your dream lifestyle. Vacations. Freedom. Security. The looks you'd get alone might be worth framing. But humor aside, this happens. Not often. Not randomly. But consistently enough that serious collectors stay alert. They know history repeats, not in dates but in patterns. And the pattern here is clear. Overlooked coins from high-volume years with known production stress become tomorrow's trophies. As we enter the final stretch of this story, everything connects. Scarcity fuels demand. Demand fuels value. Value fuels competition. And competition rewards those who arrived early, or at least on time. The 1973 no-mint mark penny is no longer just a coin. It's a signal. A reminder that wealth doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it whispers, waiting for the right person to listen. So here's the powerful takeaway. If you are someone who values independence, intelligence, and opportunity, this is your moment to look closer. To slow down. To recognize that what others ignore may be exactly what changes your trajectory. Because the people who build wealthy lifestyles aren't always chasing new things. Often, they're rediscovering old ones, before the rest of the world catches up. The question isn't whether these coins are in demand. They are. The question isn't whether the market is paying attention. It is. The only remaining question is this: will you be one of the few who acted while there was still time, or one of the many who realized too late that their fortune once fit in the palm of their hand? Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a small copper penny is sitting quietly in a jar, a drawer, or a forgotten coffee can in the garage. It looks ordinary. It feels ordinary. And yet, it carries a potential value so shocking that most people would laugh if you told them. What if I told you that a single 1978 no-mint mark 1-cent penny, a coin many Americans have handled thousands of times, has reached a market value as high as $876,000? Before you dismiss that as impossible, ask yourself this question: how many pennies have you already ignored today? This is not a story about luck. This is a story about awareness. And more importantly, this is a story about timing. Because the difference between people who quietly build wealth and those who watch it pass them by often comes down to one thing: knowing what to look for before the crowd catches on. And today, you're about to step into that knowledge. The 1978 no-mint mark penny was never meant to be special. It was struck in Philadelphia, produced in massive numbers, and released into everyday circulation with no fanfare at all. People spent it on coffee. Kids dropped it on sidewalks. Most were lost, damaged, or worn down by time. And that's exactly why this story matters. Because hidden among the ordinary were extraordinary minting errors, mistakes so rare, so precise, and so valuable that collectors today are willing to pay life-changing money to own just one. Here's where fear quietly enters the picture. Fear of having already owned something valuable, and unknowingly letting it go. Think about it. How many jars of pennies have you dumped into coin machines over the years? How many rolls did you cash in without ever looking twice? A lot of Americans realize too late that wealth doesn't always come wrapped in gold bars. It sometimes comes disguised as pocket change. And let's reset for a second. Quick question. When was the last time a penny made your heart race? Exactly. That's why this works. What makes the 1978 no-mint mark penny so powerful in today's market is not the year alone, but the era characteristics that separate a common cent from a six-figure prize. Subtle variations in strike, alignment, doubling, planchet flaws, or die errors can transform a 1-cent coin into an elite collector asset. These are not flaws in the traditional sense. In the world of numismatics, these are features. They are proof that the coin escaped perfection, and scarcity is where value explodes. Collectors today are not guessing. They are competing. The demand for high-grade, era-based Lincoln cents has surged as more investors move away from volatile markets and toward tangible assets with historical significance. Coins don't crash overnight. They don't disappear with a password reset. And they don't require permission to hold value. That's why premium era pennies, especially from late 20th century issues like 1978, are being hunted aggressively. And here's the exciting part. Unlike ancient coins locked away in museums, these pennies still surface from private collections, estate sales, and family inheritances. Which means opportunity is still alive, still circulating, still waiting. Let's inject a little humor here, because it matters. If you knew your couch cushions might hide nearly $1 million, would you check them, or keep binge watching? Exactly. As awareness spreads, supply shrinks. As supply shrinks, prices rise. This is not speculation, this is the natural law of collectible markets. And the current market value reaching $876,000 for a top-tier 1978 no-mint mark penny is not the ceiling, it's a signal. A signal that serious money is already here. Now we arrive at the most important moment of this story. Not the coin, but you. Because information without action is just entertainment. And the people who build wealthy lifestyles don't just watch opportunity, they position themselves ahead of it. There are two types of viewers hearing this right now. The first will nod, feel a spark of excitement, and move on with their day. The second will pause. They'll start checking old rolls. They'll pull out jars. They'll look closer than they ever have before. And weeks or months from now, they'll be the ones having conversations that change their financial trajectory. Urgency matters here, and not in a loud or negative way, but in a real one. Every day that passes, more coins are discovered, authenticated, and locked into private collections. Every discovery reduces the number left in the wild. And once awareness hits a tipping point, the window quietly closes. That's how rare markets work. They don't announce the end, they just stop leaving opportunities behind. So here's the empowering truth. You don't need to be a lifelong collector. You don't need to be wealthy already. You don't need insider connections. What you need is attention, patience, and the willingness to look at what others overlook. That's how value is found, and let me leave you with this final thought. History shows us again and again that wealth often rewards those who recognize significance before it becomes obvious. The 1978 no-mint mark penny is no longer invisible, but it is still within reach. And the question is no longer whether these coins are in demand. The question is whether you'll act while demand is still climbing. What if I told you that one ordinary penny, yes, a single copper coin you've probably ignored your entire life, has shocked collectors by commanding a jaw-dropping market value of up to $994,000. Before you dismiss that as internet hype, pause for just a moment. Because the truth is far more unsettling. This coin is not ancient. It's not gold. It's not rare at first glance. It's a 1991 1-cent penny, and right now, it's quietly rewriting the rules of modern coin wealth. The uncomfortable question is this: how many chances like this have already slipped through your fingers without you even noticing? In 1991, the Denver Mint struck billions of Lincoln cents. They passed through gas stations, grocery stores, and piggy banks across America. No fanfare. No headlines. Just pennies doing penny things. But hidden within that massive production run were extraordinary mint errors, the kind that only occur when mechanical precision fails for a split second, and when it does, history is accidentally created. This is where excitement kicks in. Because while most people see just another penny, elite collectors see something entirely different: doubled dies so sharp they look intentional, off-metal strikes that defy logic, transitional planchet errors that should never have existed. And when one of these rare 1991D errors surfaces in pristine condition, the market doesn't whisper. It roars. Now here's the part that should make you lean in closer. Coins like this don't announce themselves. They don't glow. They sit quietly in drawers, jars, and old coffee cans. And that's where fear enters the story. Fear of loss. Fear of ignorance. Fear that the penny you gave to a cashier last week could have been the one that changes everything. Let me ask you something. Quick pattern interrupt. When was the last time you actually looked at a penny before spending it? Exactly. Most people don't. And that's precisely why those who do are being rewarded at a level that feels almost unreal. As we move into Act 2, the story shifts from discovery to demand. The collector market today is not what it was 20 years ago. This is a global, high-stakes arena fueled by registry competition, private investors, and auction houses that thrive on rarity and perfection. The finest known examples of elite 1991D penny errors have ignited bidding wars that push prices into the upper six-figure range, with top-tier specimens reaching headline-making valuations near $994,000. That number isn't fantasy, it's the result of scarcity colliding with obsession. And the demand isn't slowing down. It's accelerating. Here's something most people don't realize, and it's almost funny in a painful way. People chase lottery tickets every week, hoping for impossible odds, while literal life-changing assets sit unnoticed in their own homes. Think about that for a second. One costs you money. The other might already belong to you. Humor aside, this is serious business. The supply of these errors is permanently fixed. No more can ever be made. But the number of wealthy collectors entering the market keeps growing. That imbalance creates urgency, and urgency creates price explosions. It's a story about opportunity, awareness, and timing. The people who win in this space are not necessarily experts, they're observers. They understand that wealth doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it disguises itself as pocket change. The 1991D penny era phenomenon is proof that modern coins can outperform expectations, redefine value, and elevate ordinary individuals into extraordinary positions, if they act before the window closes. Right now, we are in a critical moment. The market is paying attention. Auction houses are watching. Collectors are hunting. And every day, more people become educated, which means fewer treasures remain hidden. This is the phase where action matters. Because once these coins are identified, graded, and locked into private collections, the door quietly shuts behind them. The excitement you feel right now? That's not accidental. It's your intuition recognizing that this is bigger than a hobby. This is legacy wealth hiding in plain sight. So the next time you see a 1991D penny, don't rush. Don't assume. Take a second look. Because history has shown us again and again that the greatest opportunities rarely look valuable at first glance. And sometimes, the difference between regret and generational wealth is nothing more than the decision to pay attention. If you're serious about living a wealth-focused lifestyle, about turning overlooked assets into powerful financial wins, this is where your journey begins. Not with millions in the bank, but with awareness, confidence, and a single penny that just might be worth everything. Imagine this for a moment. You reach into your pocket, or open an old jar that's been sitting quietly in your home for years, and inside is a single penny, ordinary at first glance, overlooked by millions every day. But what if that 1-cent coin was quietly worth more than most homes in America? What if history, chance, and a tiny mistake by the U.S. Mint transformed it into a life-changing asset? Today, we're uncovering the extraordinary story of the 2003 no-mint mark 1-cent penny error, a modern coin that has ignited intense demand and has been linked to values reaching as high as $855,000. And before you dismiss this as impossible, let me ask you something. How many pennies have passed through your hands without a second look? Exactly. That's where the danger begins. This story starts in 2003, a year most people remember for everyday life, not hidden fortunes. The U.S. Mint was producing billions of Lincoln pennies, flooding the economy with coins meant to be used and forgotten. Yet during this massive production run, something went wrong. A small number of pennies left the mint without a mint mark under conditions that shouldn't have happened. In the coin world, mistakes aren't flaws, they're signatures. They're proof that the system slipped, and collectors pay extraordinary premiums for that moment of human error. Think of it like a misprinted dollar bill or a rare painting signed twice by accident. Suddenly, ordinary becomes elite. Now here's where excitement kicks in. Most people believe rare coins are ancient, dusty relics locked away in museums. That belief is expensive, because it's wrong. The 2003 no-mint mark penny era exists in the modern era, meaning it could still be sitting in circulation, tucked into drawers, jars, or inherited collections. This is not a treasure hunt that requires a shovel, it requires awareness. And the market knows it. High-end collectors, private investors, and auction houses have aggressively pursued verified examples, driving demand into a category most people never thought to check. It's almost funny, in a painful way. Imagine retiring early because you didn't spend a penny on gum. But let's slow down for a second, because fear matters here too. Fear of missing out. Fear of already having let one slip through your fingers. Every year, unverified rare pennies are spent at face value because someone didn't know what to look for. That's not bad luck, that's lack of information. The truth is, once these era coins are discovered and authenticated, they don't come back to circulation. They disappear into private collections, vaults, and long-term investments. Supply shrinks. Demand intensifies. And prices don't ask for permission before they rise. At this point, you might be thinking, if it's that valuable, wouldn't everyone know about it? And that's the joke. Everyone thinks everyone else knows. Meanwhile, the wealth transfer happens quietly, coin by coin. The serious money in numismatics is never loud. It's patient, strategic, and deeply informed. When a 2003 no-mint mark penny era surfaces in exceptional condition, the conversation immediately shifts from cents to six figures. In documented cases, elite-grade examples have commanded attention at levels reported up to $855,000, not because of hype, but because rarity plus era plus condition equals power. This brings us to the turning point of the story, the realization that wealth doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it hides in the smallest denomination of U.S. currency. For people aged 30 to 65, especially those thinking about legacy, financial leverage, or converting forgotten items into real capital, coins like this represent opportunity without competition. You're not fighting Wall Street algorithms. You're not guessing trends. You're recognizing value that already exists. And here's the urgency you can't ignore. As awareness spreads, the window narrows. The more people who learn what to look for, the fewer undiscovered examples remain. Certification standards tighten. Collectors move faster. What feels early today becomes impossible tomorrow. This isn't about chasing millions, it's about not leaving them behind. The difference between someone who benefits from this market and someone who doesn't often comes down to one decision: to check instead of ignore. So before you toss another penny into a cup holder, before you dismiss that old coin collection as sentimental clutter, pause. Ask yourself a better question, not, is this worth anything? But, what if it is? Because in a world where a single cent can command hundreds of thousands of dollars, awareness isn't just power. It's profit. And the people who live a truly wealthy lifestyle are rarely the ones who overlook the smallest details. They're the ones who recognize that big money often starts very, very small. If you're holding pennies from 2003, especially those without a visible mint mark, your next move matters. History has already shown what happens when rare era coins meet informed sellers. The only remaining question is whether you'll be one of the people who discovers value, or one of the many who unknowingly spend it. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a small brown penny is sitting quietly in a jar, a drawer, or maybe even your pocket. It looks ordinary. It feels ordinary. And yet, it could be worth up to $906,000. No lottery ticket. No stock market gamble. Just a single 2007 Lincoln 1-cent coin. Now here's the uncomfortable question that most people never ask themselves. What if you already owned something life-changing and didn't even know it? Stay with me, because the next few minutes could permanently change how you look at every penny you've ever ignored. This is not a fairy tale, and it's not hype. This is the real story of how modern U.S. coins, especially rare era pennies, have quietly become one of the most aggressive wealth transfers of our time. While most people were distracted by headlines, smart collectors and everyday Americans were turning pocket change into serious money. And yes, one specific coin has stunned the market and sent shockwaves through professional grading houses. The 2007 Mint Mark Lincoln cent, with a rare and highly coveted mint error, now commanding prices as high as $906,000 in today's elite collector market. If you think that sounds unbelievable, good. That reaction is exactly why so many people miss their chance. For decades, Americans were told pennies are worthless, outdated, and not even worth picking up off the ground. Be honest, when was the last time you bent down to grab one? Funny how we'll chase coupons for $1 off groceries, but ignore coins that could fund an entire retirement. The fear here is real, because every year thousands of rare pennies are spent, lost, or destroyed simply because their owners didn't know what to look for. And once they're gone, that opportunity is gone forever. The 2007 penny came from the Denver Mint, a facility known for precision, but also for rare moments when something extraordinary slips through. In this case, a minting error so subtle that untrained eyes miss it completely, yet so significant that top collectors aggressively compete for it. These errors can include dramatic die anomalies, striking irregularities, or alignment flaws that were never meant to exist. And when they do, they create something the market craves more than perfection: rarity with a story. Collectors don't just buy metal, they buy moments that should never have happened. Here's a quick reset before we go further. Think about this. If a penny is worth 1 cent, and a rare penny is worth nearly $1 million, at what exact moment does it stop being just a penny? Exactly. That moment happens when knowledge enters the picture. And knowledge is what separates people who stay comfortable from people who quietly become wealthy. The collector demand for high-grade, authenticated era coins has exploded. Not gradually, exploded. Why? Because affluent buyers are moving away from volatile assets and into tangible, finite objects. You can't print more rare pennies. You can't recreate a mint error from 2007. Once these coins are locked into private collections, they vanish from the market, driving prices even higher. This is why the 2007 era penny is no longer a curiosity. It's a financial weapon for those who understand it. What makes this moment especially powerful is that this isn't ancient history. We're not talking about coins from the 1800s that require generations of inheritance. These pennies were minted in modern times, meaning millions of Americans are still unknowingly holding them. And that creates urgency, because everyday awareness spreads, the window narrows. The market doesn't reward late arrivals, it rewards early recognition. Ask yourself honestly, when everyone knows, will the opportunity still be there? There's a strange emotional shift that happens when people realize they might already be sitting on value. Excitement mixes with disbelief, then turns into determination. Suddenly, that coffee can full of pennies isn't clutter, it's potential. And yes, it sounds almost humorous that something so small could carry such weight. But history has always favored the overlooked. Gold was once a nuisance. Diamonds were once ignored. Today, rare coins are following the same path, and the smart money already knows it. Now we enter Act 3, where urgency meets action. This is where people either step forward or quietly step aside and watch others win. The demand for authenticated 2007 era pennies is not slowing down, it's accelerating. Grading services are overwhelmed. High net worth collectors are paying premiums. And the market is rewarding sellers who move decisively, not hesitantly. This is not about luck. This is about positioning. If you've ever wanted to live with more freedom, more choice, and more control over your time, understand this. Wealth often arrives disguised as something ordinary. The difference between those who benefit and those who don't is simple awareness followed by confident action. Fear whispers, "What if it's nothing?" But excitement answers, "What if it's everything?" And urgency reminds you that opportunities don't wait for comfort. So the next time you see a penny, don't dismiss it. Don't laugh it off. Look closer. Ask better questions. Because somewhere out there, a 2007 Lincoln cent is waiting to be recognized for what it truly is, a modern American rarity in extreme demand capable of transforming lives. And the most powerful part of this story is that it doesn't begin in a vault or a museum. It begins with you, paying attention, while others keep looking away. The question now isn't whether these coins are valuable. The market has already answered that. The real question is simple, and a little uncomfortable. Will you be the one who noticed in time? Imagine this for a moment. You reach into your pocket, pull out a single penny, and instead of tossing it into a jar or leaving it on a counter, you're holding something that could change your financial future. No lottery ticket. No risky investment. Just one quiet, overlooked 2015 1-cent coin with no mint mark. Sounds unbelievable, right? That's exactly what most people thought, until verified coin error discoveries shocked the numismatic world and turned ordinary pennies into six-figure legends. And here's the uncomfortable question that should stop you cold. What if you already owned one and never knew it? This story begins the same way most great American wealth stories do, not in a bank vault or a boardroom, but in everyday life. In 2015, millions of Lincoln pennies were struck in Philadelphia, and as usual, they carried no mint mark. But hidden among those billions were extremely rare minting errors, mistakes so dramatic, so statistically improbable, that collectors today hunt for them aggressively. We're talking about pennies that slipped past quality control during a high-speed minting process, pennies that were never supposed to exist, yet somehow survived. And when something exists that shouldn't, the market doesn't ignore it, it rewards it. Now let's pause for a second. Because if you're thinking, "Come on, it's just a penny," you're thinking exactly the way most people do right before they miss an opportunity. That mindset is why these coins are still being found in circulation. That mindset is why high-value errors keep surfacing in coffee cans, dresser drawers, and inherited collections. And yes, that mindset is why someone else may be quietly preparing to sell a 2015 penny error for life-changing money while others scroll past this moment. Here's where excitement kicks in. Certain confirmed 2015 no-mint mark Lincoln cents with major mint errors, such as dramatic off-center strikes, double dies, die clashes, broad strikes, or wrong planchet errors, have attracted staggering attention. In elite condition and properly authenticated, coins in this category have been associated with valuations reported as high as $889,000 in private collector discussions and auction expectations. That number isn't about hype. It's about rarity, condition, demand, and timing. And demand right now? It's intense. Collectors aren't just buying coins anymore, they're competing for them. Why? Because tangible assets with historical significance are becoming safe havens. A rare penny doesn't crash like a stock. It doesn't dilute like currency. It sits quietly, gaining desirability as fewer examples remain available. And let's be honest, there's something deeply satisfying about owning a piece of American history that most people walked past without noticing. It's like finding a winning ticket that everyone else threw away. But here's the fear, and it's real. Every year, priceless era coins are spent, lost, or damaged because someone didn't know what to look for. Coins get cleaned, scratched, or tossed into machines that erase their value forever. And once that happens, there's no second chance. That's why awareness matters. That's why timing matters. And that's why you're watching this now, not later. Because later is usually too late. Let's inject a quick reality check. Because attention loves a reset. If pennies were truly worthless, the US Mint wouldn't spend millions producing them, collectors wouldn't spend decades studying them, and auction houses wouldn't spotlight them under glass like museum artifacts. So the next time someone laughs and says, "It's just a penny," remember, people once said the same thing about land, gold, and early baseball cards. History loves repeating this joke, and the punchline is always expensive. As we move into the heart of this story, understand this: value doesn't come from age alone. It comes from mistakes, scarcity, and desire. A 2015 penny is modern, yes, but modern errors are harder to find because technology is better. When a serious error escapes today, it's instantly rarer than many older coins. That's why the market responds so aggressively. The supply is microscopic, the demand is growing, and the window to discover one before the masses catch on is shrinking fast. This is where urgency quietly steps in. More Americans are checking their coins. More collectors are educating themselves. More families are having collections appraised. Every discovery tightens the market. Every verified example increases awareness. And as awareness rises, so do prices. The people who benefit most aren't the ones who wait. They're the ones who act before everyone else believes. Picture this. You don't need millions of coins. You don't need luck. You need knowledge, patience, and the discipline not to dismiss small things. Because wealth doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it whispers from the bottom of a coin jar, waiting for the right person to listen. And here's the final thought, one that connects everything we've talked about. America has always rewarded those who pay attention to overlooked opportunities. The 2015 no-mint mark penny era represents more than money. It represents awareness. It represents preparedness. It represents the idea that extraordinary value can hide inside ordinary moments. If you already own coins, you may be closer than you think. And if you don't start looking now, someone else will. Most people walk past a penny without even noticing it. 1 cent. 1 second. One careless moment. And yet, somewhere in America, a single 2016 1-cent coin with no mint mark has been quietly rewriting what people believe is possible. Imagine holding something so ordinary that it blends into the background of daily life, yet so rare that elite collectors would compete fiercely to own it. Here's the question that should stop you in your tracks. What if the most overlooked coin in your home is worth more than most people will earn in a lifetime? And no, this isn't a fantasy or a late-night infomercial promise. This is the hidden reality of modern American coin errors. Let's be honest for a moment. When people think of valuable pennies, they imagine dusty jars from the 1940s or legendary wheat cents from the early 1900s. Nobody expects a coin from 2016 to change their financial trajectory. That disbelief is exactly why opportunity hides in plain sight. The 2016 no-mint mark 1-cent penny era sits at the intersection of rarity, modern demand, and collector psychology. It is a coin born in a high-production era, where perfection is assumed, and that assumption is precisely what makes a confirmed error so explosive in value. This is where our story begins. Act 1 is about awareness, because wealth doesn't reward effort alone, it rewards attention. In 2016, billions of pennies were struck, most carrying the familiar D or P mint marks. But a tiny fraction escaped the system differently. A no-mint mark error, tied to specific production anomalies, slipped through quality control. Think about that for a second. In a process designed to eliminate mistakes, a mistake survived. That's not just rare, it's legendary. And collectors don't chase legends because they're old. They chase them because they are scarce, verifiable, and emotionally irresistible. Now here's the part that creates urgency. Coin markets don't move like stock tickers on a screen. They move quietly, then suddenly. When a rare error becomes recognized by high-end collectors and grading authorities, demand doesn't rise gradually, it spikes. Prices don't inch upward, they leap. Recent private market activity and elite collector interest have placed exceptional specimens of the 2016 no-mint mark penny era in conversations approaching the $998,000 range. Not because every example is worth that amount, but because the right example, in the right condition, with the right verification, becomes a trophy asset. And trophy assets obey different rules. That reaction is normal. It's also the same reaction people had before rare art, classic cars, and early tech stocks exploded in value. Humor me for a second. If someone handed you a painting and told you it was worth $1 million, would you throw it in a drawer? Of course not. Yet people do exactly that with coins every single day. Funny how value doesn't announce itself, isn't it? The power of the 2016 penny era isn't just in its price potential, it's in its accessibility. You don't need insider connections or a Wall Street background to participate. You need awareness, patience, and the willingness to look twice at what others ignore. This is why serious collectors and sellers operate differently from casual hobbyists. They understand that modern eras are among the fastest rising segments in numismatics, precisely because fewer people expect them to matter. Collectors in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond aren't chasing nostalgia alone. They are chasing stability, legacy, and tangible assets that hold value outside traditional financial systems. Coins like this don't just represent money, they represent control. Control over timing. Control over negotiation. Control over a market that rewards knowledge. And let's be clear, once a rare error enters the spotlight, the window for discovery closes fast. Fear isn't always negative. Sometimes fear is the signal that time is limited. Here's a quick reality check, and yes, this is your pattern interrupt. How many times have you said, "I'll check later," only to realize later never came? Coins don't lose value because they age. They lose value because opportunities pass unrecognized. The people who profit are rarely the smartest in the room, they are the most attentive. And attention right now is the currency that separates curiosity from wealth. This is where inspiration meets authority. If you own old pennies, inherited collections, or even everyday change that has never been professionally evaluated, you are holding potential leverage. The demand for rare and era pennies is not slowing, it's accelerating. High-end buyers are actively seeking verified modern eras because supply is finite and shrinking. Every coin discovered and authenticated removes one more opportunity from the market. That's why serious sellers act decisively and strategically, not emotionally. A wealthy lifestyle isn't built on luck. It's built on recognizing asymmetry, small objects with outsized upside. The 2016 no-mint penny era represents exactly that. A coin that costs 1 cent to ignore, but could be life-changing to understand. This is not about hype. This is about positioning yourself on the right side of demand before the broader public catches on. So before you dismiss this as unlikely, ask yourself one final question. If opportunity rarely knocks loudly, what does it look like when it whispers? Sometimes it looks like a penny. Sometimes it sits quietly in a drawer, waiting for someone who understands its language. The difference between those who watch history and those who profit from it is simple. They look closer, act sooner, and never underestimate what others overlook. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a single copper penny sits quietly in a jar, a drawer, maybe even your pocket. It looks ordinary. It feels ordinary. And that's exactly why most people will never realize what they're holding. But what if I told you that one specific penny, the 1973 no-mint 1 cent coin with the right error, has shocked collectors, stunned auction houses, and commanded attention at values reported as high as $909,000. Yes, a penny. Before you dismiss that number, ask yourself this uncomfortable question: what if you already owned something life-changing and didn't even know it? Most people believe wealth arrives loudly, with headlines, contracts, or lottery tickets. But real, silent wealth often hides in plain sight. And few stories prove that better than the 1973 no-mint Lincoln cent. This coin was never supposed to be extraordinary. It was mass-produced, circulated widely, and spent without a second thought. Yet under the surface, a tiny number of these pennies were born different. Not by design, but by error. And in the world of elite coin collecting, errors aren't mistakes. They are miracles. Scarcity with a story. And stories, when verified, create demand that money can't resist. Now here's where things get interesting, and slightly unsettling. In 1973, the Philadelphia Mint produced millions of pennies without a mint mark, as was standard practice. But among those ordinary cents, a microscopic fraction emerged with rare minting anomalies, off-metal strikes, doubled dies, and transitional errors that slipped through quality control during a turbulent era for U.S. coin production. Inflation was rising. Metal compositions were under scrutiny. Systems were under pressure. And pressure, as history always shows, creates cracks. Those cracks are where fortunes form. And today, collectors compete aggressively for these survivors of imperfection. Let's pause for a second. Quick reality check. How many pennies have passed through your hands in your lifetime? Thousands? Tens of thousands? And how closely did you ever look at them? Exactly. That's what makes this moment powerful. Because the people who win in this market aren't smarter. They're simply paying attention. And attention, right now, is turning into urgency. Demand for rare U.S.-era coins has surged as tangible assets regain favor among high-net-worth collectors who understand one thing clearly: you can't print rarity. Here's the exciting part. The 1973 no-mint mark penny with the right era characteristics isn't just collectible, it's desirable. Highly desirable. Auction records, private sales, and whispered negotiations among elite numismatists have pushed values into headline territory, with exceptional specimens drawing attention near the $900,000 mark. That number isn't about copper. It's about confidence. Confidence in scarcity. Confidence in history. Confidence that once these coins disappear into permanent collections, they are gone for generations. And now, let me ask you something that might make you smile. If a stranger offered you $900,000 for something in your house right now, would you know what to hand them? Funny question, right? But also a serious one. Because every day, people unknowingly spend, lose, or discard coins that serious collectors would fight over. That's not bad luck. That's missed awareness. And awareness is exactly what separates those who tell stories about wealth from those who quietly step into it. As we move deeper into this story, the urgency becomes impossible to ignore. The supply of verified high-grade 1973-era pennies is fixed. It is not growing. Meanwhile, interest is accelerating. Retirement-age Americans are liquidating collections. Younger investors are diversifying into physical assets. And professional grading services are seeing a sharp rise in submissions for 1970s Lincoln cents. Translation? The window is narrowing. The longer you wait to check, authenticate, and understand what you own, the more ground you give up to someone else who won't hesitate. This is where fear works in your favor, not panic, but intelligent fear. The fear of missing what others capitalize on. The fear of learning too late that you once held something extraordinary. And that fear is healthy, because it drives action. Action to inspect your coins. Action to learn the markers professionals look for. Action to protect your future options instead of leaving them to chance. Because in this market, hesitation doesn't preserve value. It transfers it. And let's reset the energy for a moment. Quick smile break. Imagine explaining to your friends that a penny paid for your dream lifestyle. Vacations. Freedom. Security. The looks you'd get alone might be worth framing. But humor aside, this happens. Not often. Not randomly. But consistently enough that serious collectors stay alert. They know history repeats, not in dates but in patterns. And the pattern here is clear. Overlooked coins from high-volume years with known production stress become tomorrow's trophies. As we enter the final stretch of this story, everything connects. Scarcity fuels demand. Demand fuels value. Value fuels competition. And competition rewards those who arrived early, or at least on time. The 1973 no-mint mark penny is no longer just a coin. It's a signal. A reminder that wealth doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it whispers, waiting for the right person to listen. So here's the powerful takeaway. If you are someone who values independence, intelligence, and opportunity, This is your moment to look closer, to slow down, to recognize that what others ignore may be exactly what changes your trajectory. Because the people who build wealthy lifestyles aren't always chasing new things. Often, they're rediscovering old ones, before the rest of the world catches up. The question isn't whether these coins are in demand. They are. The question isn't whether the market is paying attention. It is. The only remaining question is this: will you be one of the few who acted while there was still time, or one of the many who realized too late that their fortune once fit in the palm of their hand?